Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project just got back from Yellowstone. The entire trip was about 3,300 miles. It took about a week, and I want to share with you some incredible footage of the route along the way. Devastated forests, beautiful forests and landscapes, the bubbling landscapes of Yellowstone. I was thinking of a very cool word to put in there, but it didn't meet up with me at that time. So, let me show you also, ladies and gentlemen, the possibilities and what I would say real doom if it does happen of the Yellowstone eruption. Let me show you this real quick. Will you just look at it? This is the modeling of the ashfall distribution from a Yellowstone super eruption, and I'll leave the link in the video description box if you'd like to download this yourself. Very good information on the possibilities depending on if it's a umbrella type eruption or how it actually erupts and how much of the land will be devastated and covered in ashfall, how much approximate ashfall, and surprisingly, just 1 millimeter of ashfall, remember there's about 24.5 millimeters in an inch, is enough to shut down an airport and to cause electronics to malfunction. So very interesting. I'm also going to give you the latest updates on Kilauea, the volcano out there. They've actually brought that down to orange status, which is good. There's also very dangerous areas out there. So let me show you, first of all, the route that I took here. So you can see starting here in Texas, then moving through New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, into Wyoming, Montana, back into Wyoming again, then driving through Colorado, a little bit of Oklahoma. I didn't get a chance to see the black mess out there. I do want to see that. And then through, of course, the fracking fields, you know, where they pull up all the oil in wonderful Texas. So anyway, that was the trip, and I'm going to show you the images just to kind of put into perspective. So right here, let's take a look at some of the images. This was taken at the point in Mount Washburn, I think it was called, one of the higher points in Yellowstone. And this was literally right before they started spraying. But I want to take you back to the beginning here. Not quite the beginning, but before, the night before I got to Jackson, Wyoming, the Tetons, and Yellowstone, because that's all along the way. So, you know, nice landscape there. It looked good. Notice that some of these areas, I just want to put into perspective how low some of these cell towers are now. You can see here that this tower is, I mean, what is that? 15 feet? Starts at maybe, I don't know, 14, 15 feet. Very interesting that they've gotten so low. And I've also got images of these things in cities now, like right across the street from somebody's house. Oh yeah, talk about cell reception. But anyway, this right here was just a really cool image of the Tetons, and this was before they started spraying. You can see the real clouds, healthy clouds, beautiful fluffy clouds, not that chemtrail splatter. Here's another image. And then this is right before you get to Yellowstone, and I think a lot of this must have been from a forest fire, not actually from the beetles, because that area, you can see the trunks are blackened up here. Looks like fire to me. But there's a lot of destruction there before you get into the park. And then when you enter the park here, you've got some pretty cool. It doesn't take long to get to the geysers out there and the pots that kind of bubble over and stuff. But this area out here is close to Old Faithful. And I got video footage of Old Faithful, but there's multiple geysers. You can just walk along the route and see how it's just constantly steaming. You can smell the gases and the different chemicals coming from the bellowing from the heart of the earth. And just gorgeous out there. The majority of the park, I think, looked extremely healthy. Some areas, the trees were growing so close together, they're going to have to compete for soil and water and nutrients. And I thought this was a pretty cool image here. Let's see if I can zoom this in just a little bit more. And then I'm also going to share with you some of the asphalt maps and stuff here in just a moment. So here is a petrified tree. This is a petrified tree in the park. And then this area right here, once again, Mount Washburn. Let me go back and kind of show you, put into perspective the map here. So, okay, here's the map. I'm going to zoom in here. Oops. Okay, so you can see driving through the Grand Teton National Park. I just showed you some of those images to put it into perspective. Driving through there, came through the south entrance, and before you got to the entrance, I think there must have been a forest fire there because I showed you a lot of the trees. Then you get into the park. It's just beautiful, looks extremely healthy, and we drove up here, West Thumb area. Then you can go turn left, Old Faithful. Oops. Let's go back to Old Faithful here. So you saw Old Faithful. You can walk around this area. And that's this area right here. No, right there. So that's the area, so again, that we're in right there. You can walk around, do a round trip there. Nice little brisk walk. And you'll see, you know, a bunch of these geysers steaming. And then you can sit down, and about every hour, Old Faithful erupts. Then, you saw the petrified tree. Then this is Mount Washburn area. Okay, let me see where that's at. Go up here, past Madison. Now, the Steamboat Geyser, I want to talk to you about Steamboat Geyser because that's around here. That typically only erupts every couple of years. It's only gone off 11 times. It went off 11 times from 1990 to March of 2018. Since then, it's erupted 10 or 11 times in 6 months. Actually, 4 months. I did the math when I was out there, it was every 12.4 days it was going off. But since then, it's been a few more days. So it's about every 13 days the Steamboat Geyser has been erupting. So, and that's actually out here in Norris area. I'm sorry, that's right here, Steamboat Geyser, Norris area. So we drove around. We went up through Madison, through Norris. We didn't turn left here. We didn't take this route, but we did turn right. So we started at the bottom. We went through all this. Then we drove through. We checked out the Steamboat Geyser area. I showed you some footage of the geyser observation point where you could observe multiple geysers a couple days ago. Drove up through here, stayed up here for the night, and then the next day we drove through this area around here. You can see the Forests of the Northern Range, the Tower Roosevelt, and instead of staying right, we cut down, went through all this area here, Canyon Village, the Washburn Hot Springs. Up here in Mount Washburn, though, this area right here, Mount Washburn, that's where, and you can see 10,243 feet, that's where they started to spray. So that's a picture right there of Mount Washburn. And then here's a picture of the lovely Contrail stratospheric aerosol injection, solar radiation management, whatever you want to call it. I mean, just look at the detail of these lines that it leaves here. And I've noticed that they might have new formulas now because these seem to dissipate quicker. And I don't notice as many as the X patterns. This dissipated quicker than your average, at least from what I've seen in the past. But I do not think it is a normal contrail. And if it is, I've seen the patents and the information on the jet fuel now that they use that has the chemicals needed anyway to create solar radiation management programs. You know, to be a part of it, I should say. To use a solar radiation management in the jet fuel, you don't even need certain... I mean, just look at that. It's because they love us so much. They love us so much. But that was the last day at the park there. And then I noticed On the horizon, there was other jets that started spraying as well. And immediately after that, I just started getting grumpy. I'm thinking to myself, okay, guess what? Tomorrow it's going to be overcast. It's going to be hazy. I'm going to see the nanoparticulate crap. And sure enough, and I think they're doing entire sections, entire regions. And look at this right here. This is where I started. And this is towards, let me show you where this is at now. Oops. Okay, here we go. So now, in Mount Washburn, check that area out. Drive through here, driving down. Yellowstone River, Fishing Bridge. See Lake Village here. So we turn right here. And this east entrance area here, I noticed there weren't nearly as many people out there. One thing I got to say, I think it was we picked the busiest time of the year to go out there. There was tons of people there. I mean, it was insane how many people were there. And hey, good for them. I mean, I was there too. I would prefer to go out there when there's less people. And I don't even think, are you the kind of person that goes to a national park and you want to get away from crowds? Or are you the kind of person that goes to a national park and you just don't care? Because most people probably don't care. So that's just my own, personal ego talking here. Because everybody has a right to see a national park. I think it's amazing. I just prefer to go to places when they're not as crowded. So, with that being said, this eastern part here, plus if I start talking about what I talk about, people they're like, huh? I don't understand what a chemtrail is, son. Are you one of them conspiracy theorists? Oh my gosh, you actually do have a tinfoil hat on. Oh my goodness. I'll bet that thing blocks from cell phone radiation too, doesn't it? Oh my goodness, it does. Wow. Anyway, I divagate. I digress. So check this out. Let me show you some pictures now. Let's take a look at some of the images here. Where's it at? Oh yeah. All right, here. Man. Okay, here we go. Picture tag. This right here. You can see the beetle kill. And then now we're getting close to the lake. Beautiful, beautiful lake. You can see real puffy clouds still. The nanoparticulate haze hadn't started to spread too much yet. You can see a little bit in the far horizon. Like driving back to Texas, when I got in Texas, I just thought I was living in Blade Runner 2049, except for it wasn't quite as futuristic, but the environment was pretty much the same. If you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. You can't even see the skies because it's just like this haze, fog, nastiness. So, and the animals were acting totally cool out there, folks. They weren't acting crazy at all. They were actually showing off at Old Faithful. So no worries or concerns there yet. There's a field of bison. Even saw a brown bear out there. I got some footage of it, but the footage of it isn't, I don't know if you can even really see it unless you look carefully. But anyway, I thought that a volcano was erupting or something because of how many people stopped to look at the brown bear. But it was pretty cool. So this is where you start to see, this is in the eastern area. Once again, keep up with me. I know you are. This is in the area that I showed you on the map coming out of the park. And this is where you start to see a lot of tree doom. This is still beautiful. As you can see, there's the lake. Beautiful lake. Beautiful lake. You can see there in the horizon. You can actually see some details there. So once these lakes disappear, then there might be signs for concern. You can see to the left, though. I mean, take a look at this. Oh, yeah. You can see some steamy opportunities there on the other side. And just imagine you're driving on a big, literally on a big bed of magma. Like thousands of square miles approximately. I'll get you the exact amount in a minute. So, oh my goodness, what is wrong? Oh, it looks beautiful and healthy. Or does it? Well, the grass looks good. Grass looks great. But what about the trees? What about the trees? Oh my goodness, they're all toast. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I was like, man, you know what? When I started looking at the maps again, the ash maps, I was like, I better call up my Patriot Supply again. So I did. And I ordered 3 more sets of mills. So I got another 210 mills on the way, less than $200. I also ordered some organic seeds, like an acre full of organic seeds. So if ash does cover the skies, whether it's Yellowstone or another volcano or anything, well, I know I've got a bunch of food, and I know that I've got an opportunity to, once that food runs out, I've got seeds to grow more food, organic seeds not the Mondevilso that has some type of patent where you can't even use the same seeds again. We drove past a Monsanto plant in Idaho along the way. It was like, oh my gosh, man, it's right there. Hell's right there in Idaho. So anyway, take a look at this. We just look at it. Beautiful and sad. Beautiful and sad. I can see for miles and miles and miles and miles. Tree doom. Tree doom. More tree doom, ladies and gentlemen. More tree doom. Tree doom, but look at the growth. I did a podcast a while ago. I'm like, the world could be dying. No, the world is not dying. The world will find a way. The world will survive. And look at how the world is working here in Yellowstone to make up for the trees that it's lost. Look at all those trees that are growing. It's like they're competing for each other. They're competing for soil. There's just tons of them right there on the left. They're going to make it. They don't look super healthy, though. Those trees didn't look too healthy either. And then look at this. Devastation. Oh, yeah. Well, you just look at it. And then I wanted to show you this to put into perspective. Look at the mountainside here and all these rocks. Just kind of think, let's go back when the last eruption was and how, when this was fresh, how it must just have been, watching that happen from a bird's eye view. Some more areas of the trees. And then now getting out of the park, this is outside of the park. This is the next day. This was I think this was Casper Mountain. Driving back through Casper Mountain, and you can see the horizon already. You can see how hazy it's starting to get. And then, look at this. Oh, yeah, 4G speed. 4G speed. Now here, look at that tower and how close it is to houses and such. Look at that. Boom. 4G speed. Who knows what they're putting on there? 4G, 5G, 69G, 72G, 156G. You don't know. And then I just kind of wanted to show you a couple other cool pictures driving back here. I think this was this in Texas? This might have even been in Texas. Pretty cool. Right? I've seen people that have tried to make this look like there's one sun and there's a huge sun behind it. I actually did a podcast once where a gentleman was like, dude, look at this. They inverted and everything. Like a tiny sun and there's a huge sun behind it, a huge sun behind that, and then a bigger sun behind that, and then a Dyson sphere. And anyway, just one sun, man. Now, here's the reason I'm showing you this. Because you know how people say the sun is white and it's brighter now? So they think the sun has changed? And maybe the sun has changed somewhat, but if the sun is white, then why is it still orange on the horizon and yellow? So maybe the sun hasn't changed as much as the atmosphere has changed due to this solar radiation management programs. And then if these volcanoes erupt, like keep going off, like Kilauea and other volcanoes, Indonesia, Guatemala, and thankfully Kilauea has gone down to orange level status. Yet think about if all these I think that my projection, ladies and gentlemen, is this year is the year of volcanoes. The year of volcanoes. So if so, the good news is they'll probably cut down on the solar radiation management programs. They'll probably cut down on the stratospheric aerosol injection programs because that's what they're attempting to do with these programs is mimic volcanic eruptions that spew ash around the world to cool the planet. So they're like, okay, well, now they're doing the work for us, so we don't have to do this as much. I don't know. Maybe they'll just keep doing it because they love us so much and they want to make sure we're going to be nice and safe. But, I mean, just take a look. And it looks even more orange in person. So, I think it has more to do with the actual manipulation of the ozone. Now, that's my personal opinion. Now, I want to talk to you. Let me go ahead and... Oops. All right, so, the trip was good. It was neat to really get an idea of the magnitude of the park because it's 3,400 square miles. Rhode Island's about 1,212 square miles, approximately. So at almost 3 times the size, you're sitting on a giant volcano. And the amount of ashfall from just Mount St. Helens was enough to go around the world. And that's like a little zit compared to a, I know, pretty nasty, right? Compared to a giant pool, like Olympic-sized pool of pus. Like if you're comparing zit sizes, you've got an ocean, not quite an ocean. All right, it's getting really gross here, but you know what I'm talking about. And this is like toxic pus. I mean, this stuff is, yeah. Anyway, so what do we do as a species? I'll bet you they're working on stuff right now. They've probably got ideas on how to create vents and stuff if they see something like that happening again. Because there's been multiple eruptions, very large, world-changing, extinction-level event eruptions from Yellowstone. And I want to show you now some of the ashfall maps here. Let me go back again and show this to you. Not that one. Here we go. This paper, the research paper, modeling ashfall distribution from a Yellowstone super eruption. So what they do in this article is they're taking data from previous eruptions. They're using different types of eruptions, like the umbrella ash cloud versus a different type of ash cloud that isn't as detrimental as far as ash flow is concerned via spreading it around the globe and around the nation. But they use models from ASH 3D and previous data. So let me share with you. Okay, here we go. Let me show this to you right now. These are the different types of plumes. You can see a weak plume, an anvil plume, a major umbrella cloud, and how much that would affect the planet. Now, if we go right here, boom. You can see, using different sources like Google Earth, the wind fields here, and the source nodes, and how this would spread out. Now, the umbrella would be the worst case scenario. All right, so let's take a look at the projections for a month-long Yellowstone eruption. Now, this is using data from 2001 wind fields, and once again, I'll leave the link for this entire article in the video description box. You can go through all the citations and cross-reference all the data. But this shows you the thickness in millimeters. So, once again, 24.5 approximately millimeters is an inch, but even just 1 millimeter is enough to possibly shut down an airport, and it can fry electronics. And then if it rains afterwards, and then think about Hawaii, Halo, Kilauea is still spewing lava, and it's nothing like the Yellowstone caldera. I mean, nothing even close. So we'll scroll down here a little bit further, and this data is looking at results from a week-long Yellowstone eruption. So even just a week, if we were to zoom in here, this entire area, I mean, you're talking all of America gets covered in enough ash to fry electronics. I wouldn't be surprised if all the airports in the country were to shut down if Yellowstone did erupt. And how long would it last? And then what about food supply? So, another thing too is you look up here, and we'll scroll to the right. You can look at the timelines. So if this starts in April, or starts in January, okay, this is what the winds would look like. If it was to happen in July based on previous data, what they're doing is just showing projections for 1 month. Down here, look at it for a week. Wow. I mean, even up in Canada, eh? Don't you know? Well, you just look at it, don't you know? Now, this right here A 3-day eruption, even 3 days. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. 100 to 300 millimeters of ash. All the way out past Rapid City? Wow. I mean, that's half of South Dakota. Montana, Idaho, parts of Utah. I mean, it's all the way down. It's hitting Denver. Look at that. Denver's even getting hit with possibly... Jeez. That's like, let's put that in perspective. That's at least 5 inches of ash. And then if it rains afterwards, Halo. I mean, speaking of Halo, you got to go to gadgetswithleak.com and check out these awesome flashlights. I am so glad that I took all this tactical gear with me on this trip, because when I was camping out in the tent on top of the van, it was pitch black. These lights are so bright that like the whole area lights up. They're awesome. Check this out. Look at this. Now this is looking at a different possibility here. This is not a umbrella cloud. So these results are from simulations with no umbrella cloud. You're looking at 3 days. Okay, so no umbrella cloud, just 3 days. That would be obviously a much better scenario. A week, half of the U.S., lower U.S. 1 month, what is that? 3/4 at least of the United States. A little bit of Florida's missing out. A little bit of Texas, parts of California. Yeah, they'll just get nailed with tsunamis, right? No big deal. No big deal. The coast is much safer, I'm sure. I mean, wow. Are you serious? Yes. And first of all, I think that if the powers that be were to find out that something was going to happen, they probably got all the tools necessary to find out if there's going to be an eruption. They'll probably take the appropriate measures. It's always a good idea to go, what if, though? How are you prepared? Are you prepared? I mean, do you have a backup plan? If so, awesome. If not, maybe consider other options. And on that note, I want to bring up the updates real quick on Kilauea. I hope you've stayed with... Well, no, let's go back to this. Check this out. I want to show this to you real quick. I think this is pretty neat. All right, check this out. This puts into perspective, once again, Yellowstone versus Mount St. Helens. 74,000 years ago, Toba. I think that's out there by India. Yellowstone, 2 million years ago, 640,000 years ago. Then the Long Valley caldera, 760,000 years ago. Awesome. It's getting hot in here, ladies and gentlemen. You got to have some kind of fan or air conditioning or enjoy the sweat. Oh, yeah. And also, once again, check out gadgetswithleak.com or go to gadgetswithleak.com. Yeah, good options. And My Patriot Supply, if you want to get some organic seeds, water filtration systems, all the good stuff. 70 mils for less than $70 for Leak Project listeners. There is a limit of 3 per order. Be excellent to each other, be prepared, and be the change you want to see. You want to prepare for the worst. You want to get the best. That's why you want to go to mypatriotsupply.com. Pick up 210 mils for less than $200, a 25-year shelf life. Also pick up some organic seeds in case you need to grow your own. And you definitely want to go to gadgetswithleak.com for the brightest, baddest, toughest flashlights on the planet. Halo. I sure am glad I have my tactical lights and Halo, because everybody needs a good Halo. You know Murphy's an optimist, and Murphy's Law. If you don't have a flashlight, you'll need a flashlight. If you have a flashlight, you'll be less likely to need a flashlight. And if you have food, you won't be hungry. My name's Captain Obvious. Go to gadgetswithleak.com today and My Patriot Supply. Oh yeah, back to the program. Just look at it.